support this bill with strong reasons. Madam Speaker, I am what I am because of a woman.
Very good.
And I support, the first reason why I support this bill is because it is a dedication to our mothers. It's a dedication to my mother, because were it not for my mom, I could not be here.
Madam Speaker, I want to support the motion, Madam Speaker, because I want to echo President Obama's words, Madam Speaker. And President Obama, Madam Speaker, as we all know, supports women in the entire globe, Madam Speaker. And it is President Obama, Madam Speaker, that said, any country that does not invest in its women, any country that does not carry along its women, Madam Speaker, is doomed for failure.
Has not been subjected to public participation, which is key. And this being a constitutional amendment bill, it should be subjected to the instrument of the Constitution. So I'm looking forward maybe to get a ruling from the Speaker.
All right, and that is last week's debate on the two-thirds gender rule. And of course, tomorrow, that crucial vote that's coming up in the National Assembly that we'll be keenly watching for you. But tonight, canvassing that matter here in the last word. Remember, you can be part of the conversation, tweeting your thoughts at Sophia Wanuna. I will look at some of them as we continue with the show tonight. Honorable Emasa, let me bring this to you, the question of cost. And we've had many in the past argue against affirmative action as far as nominating members, because they say we already have such a significant, huge number of representatives to nominate is just to get that even at a worse situation, to balloon the wage bill. Many have gone there. Do you agree with those sentiments?
No, I don't. The new constitution itself would all agree that introduce significant changes to the Kenya's legislative system and practices. Among them, of course, is the bicameral parliament. We have the Senate, National Assembly, and also the county governments. If we look at the county government, for example, it created a number of structures. We have from the ward administrators all the way to the executives and to the governor's office and all that. And when we look at it really, I think we should focus more on the gains of devolution, the gains of the new constitution. Saying that to nominate more women to top up through the proposed special seats would be a burden to this country. That is to say we selectively want to implement this constitution, because there are so many other functions, there are so many other costs that have gone into this process. It is not a cheap process. It is expensive. There is the expense that goes with it. Okay. But we need women on decision-making tables. We need women in positions of leadership, because women can influence a number of things, a number of decisions that need to be made require women, so that we ensure that there's gender sensitivity in the decisions, in the policy making of this country. I think I do not agree with that.
Of course, I'll come to you shortly. Let me bring it to Muma, because there are those who honestly ask. We already have, the 47 women representatives around the country, and when they came into office, one of the things they championed for was to get a kitty, and they said they cannot work, they're not having impact because they don't have money. So that was given. So at the end of the day, people are like, we don't even see the impact of this. First, it's misunderstood. Some people think women representatives mean they're there to represent women alone, yet that's not the case. So are you not disappointed even with the women we have, that we're asking for more numbers to be brought in?
Not at all. One, remember, this is about inclusion. And our constitution, the one principle that runs through from chapter 1 to the end is the principle of equality. The devolution is about including regions that were never included. Whether it is public service, it's about inclusion. So we are suggesting that when we include, then it is expensive. Of course it is. To include all the 47 is going to cost us more. To include persons with disability, it will cost us more when we say we should adjust buildings to include them. Now, what you're trying to say is that because it is going to cost more to bring everybody around the table, then this family of Kenya should just continue having the ugali being eaten by a few people, because when you bring more people, the ugali will become smaller.
Look, the question is, even when you bring more people, are they really working? Are we getting better results?
Now, that is something that cannot be. The principle of equality cannot be measured on the basis of who you have put there.
Right.
Now, when we discuss the quality of members of parliament that we have, we need to discuss that as an issue, not of women.
As a whole.
As a whole. Can you for sure tell me that the quality of all male members of parliament is great?
Good point.
So we need to look at that.
Yeah.
Secondly, when the issue of the wage bill in the entire of the public service, you need to look at it holistically and find out, is it the inclusion of women in parliament, in the National Assembly and the Senate, that is going to bring down this country, or it's the parallel structures that are being set up? We have devolved so many of the functions,
Yeah.
but national government staff are still huge. We still have all the devolved staff in counties being taken wholesale, plus the local authority staff, plus new who are coming in. What we need to be asking ourselves, are we putting in place the systems that can facilitate running of the Kenyan government in the proper manner?
Yeah.
Or we are now using women as scapegoat?
Okay.
Yeah.
And before I come to your course, coming to you now, but just to mention, the National Women's Steering Committee, working together with the Institute of Economic Affairs, conducted a study to estimate the cost of full implementation of the two-thirds rule. And, you know, in this article that was written by Kwame, he argued that it's a fallacy to argue that it would, you know, cost more. And one of the things, to just read some of what he said here, is that Kenya's parliament is also unwilling to take legislative initiative to respond to the directives of the Supreme Court and ensure adherence to this two-thirds gender rule, ostensibly because the executive had not prepared and presented the full bill for debate. He mentioned, the study that they conducted finds that the most expensive but least likely scenario would require an additional 2.4 billion to pay for an additional 7 seats for the Senate and 104 for the National Assembly, which would be equivalent to an additional 1 shilling per week for each citizen. So again, the argument there really doesn't add up. But you had something to say.
And that's what I was going to say to you, that the cost as it's presented really is just about the cost of a soda, 50 shillings
Yes.
for a whole year per Kenyan. If you ask yourself, there is a fallacy and an impression that parliament is very expensive and wasteful. The budget of Kenya is 2 trillion. Adding 2.4 billion to parliament, parliament is the smallest branch of our government. The executive is very big, from the presidency down to the military, to the police, to the administrative services that they've kept, the old provincial administration that has been kept. That's very expensive. If you go to the judiciary, we have judges and high court stations all over the place, and judiciary and all of that, very big. The Parliament, National Assembly and the Senate is the smallest branch of government that takes the least amount of money. It just seems that MPs are rich and overpaid and they are in the public eye, but that is not the reality. The reality is, for the function of good governance, 3 branches of government: executive, legislature, and judiciary. It's only the legislature that has very important value-added functions. Legislation, making good laws, representation.
Well, there are
being the voice
issues
of,
there,
yeah, but
as
I'm
you
just
speak of the good.
No, we're making very good laws, and
Yes.
we're going to make one very good law tomorrow. I trust it, trust me. And you can call me back to celebrate it. And of course, oversight. Who do you want to oversight that huge executive, including county government oversight? Who do you want to oversight the judiciary?
Yes.
So the function of the legislature are so important that if Kenyans think you can get rid of parliament, ask yourself the value added of having the institution and the job of parliamentarians. And parliamentarians are the most accountable branch of government. Every 5 years, we send them home if they haven't done well. So I think we should not blame women in parliament, in the 11th parliament, for saying they haven't done well. Oh, those 47, what have they done? This country has for more than 50 years been run 90% by men who have messed us up.
Okay,
They have
so
not
give them a
taken us
chance.
to where we need to be as a country.
Yeah.
This country where it has failed because of weak leadership and failed leadership and corruption led by men and
governance.
some women.
All
So
right.
let us not blame these 47 women for the first time who have been in there less than 3 years. Let us put a 20-year system of affirmative action, bring a healthy, balanced parliament, and see the impact it will have.
So,
And the
yeah.
women who are in parliament, I think they do a very good job. I've seen their leadership as chairs of committees. I've seen the proposed bills and motions that have passed. And even if you look in the past parliaments, you've seen people like Martha Karua, you've seen in the parliament today, the chair of Environmental Committee, Amina.
So
They're
they are
doing
there
very
already.
good well. So
All
I
right.
think the fallacy and the stereotyping that we should not let more women come into power because a few are doing bad, I can give you many good examples of women doing very good things in leadership in our parliament. Even the
Okay.
deputy speaker,
All
she's
right.
fantastic.
So Lichuma, let me ask you this, because there are those who say, fine, so after an election, we don't meet the threshold, let's nominate. But before even we go to an election, how about political parties being more sincere? You talk about your political party leader being there tomorrow to witness and, you know, support. But as far as the political and how politics are practiced in Kenya, if political parties were to nominate women to their strongholds, it's more of a given they will get in. So do we need to see also more sincerity, more initiative from political parties?
Certainly. I think if we look at the women who came in during the 2013 election, you certainly would begin to see a pattern where a certain percentage of women who came in, a higher percentage then got elected.
Right.
So I do agree with you that we need to begin at the level where we are telling political parties that this must be your challenge. This must be your problem. I know there are communities, when you get in nominated, it's as good as you walked in.
Yes.
And when we were putting this debate together, one of the things that we asked ourselves is, would we put a restriction in terms of parties making presentation of candidates? Because again, if you said, give us 50-50, there are chances that ODM here would look at their stronghold, give you men, and look for the areas where they're not very strong and give you women. Now, I think the rule which we tried to put in the Political Parties Act, and last week I was saddened that we lost some of them, was like, would we peg the financing of the political parties on the number of women they bring in? And when we proposed that, it was in very good faith that it would give impetus to parties to want to bring in more women so that they can enjoy the funding. That was lost. But nevertheless, the Political Parties Act, I think, has come in with some very, very good progressive sections that will make both men and women to come out and campaign. But I want to caution the women. They do not come out to seek to be voted. So it becomes sometimes very challenging in terms of what then do political parties do. Primaries by political parties, we are hoping IBC, and I hope IBC is hearing us, that the primaries must be supervised. In terms of the list, or in Article 90 of the people who make it to the political parties list, IBC must give the regulations. And Article 90 of the Constitution is very clear. So I think when we leave it too loose to the political parties without sanctions, there are chances that political parties then will want to put their cronies, and in most cases, the women will suffer the position that political parties take. But I do agree with you that it's a high time we went back, and when we pass the bill tomorrow, I am sure the next move will be, how do we organize political parties so that we begin to put both men and women in a competitive process that gets us leaders who, as Kenyans, will feel, that is my leader.
All right.
I elected her.
Yeah, let me read some of the feedback we're getting through tonight on social media. Hossam Aiden, you're tweeting, involvement of women in leadership is a big move, and I believe they can be better than the quarreling between CORD and Jubilee. Joseph Ochich, you said this is a plan by some individuals to frustrate the new constitution. Ainea Victor, you're saying, watching the last word, loving the discussion, you're proud of your MP, of course, you say. And then Genesis Riziki, you say, whether a man or a woman, you can't win an election without a fat wallet. Let's be frank here. So there's those who argue it's not really about the gender. Sylvester Lavuna, women have preserved seats in each country, men have none, we need equality. Let me bring you Mheshimiwa Emasa as we continue with some of those tweets. Rwanda leading with 64% MPs. They're doing very well in terms of their house. South Sudan, Tanzania, Burundi, and Uganda, our neighbors, have all achieved the 30%. So what is your appeal to members of parliament tomorrow as we go to this crucial vote? Because those around us have attained this. Kenya, which is soon to be way ahead, apparently lagging behind on such an important issue.
I think members, I want to appeal to all members that we need to realize that this is a mandatory obligation, that we need to give direction as leaders, that we need to come in our numbers, and we need to vote for this bill. We have gradually grown, of course, from 2001 when we were at 9.8%
Right.
to 20% in the 11th parliament. So we would want to see an improvement by 2017, a situation where we can get to the 30%. I believe that tomorrow most members will support us. Most of our male colleagues have supported us in the past in very controversial bills like the marriage bill and many others. So we're still hopeful and optimistic that tomorrow they're going to support us. I know Rwanda have done so well, but during our interactions with our Rwandan colleagues, they actually alluded to the fact that they had more women contesting. You know, the problem with our system is that we do have very few women attempting. You know, when you do not have women contesting, then the probability that women will get elected is zero.
Yes.
So that is why we need, I want to support what Madam Lichuma said, that our political parties need to give the women the space, need to give the women the nomination papers to be able to contest for these positions. When that is done, then we are assured of increasing the numbers of women who can be elected. And I'm happy with the sitting members of parliament for counties. Most of them are going for constituency, for the constituency seats. And also in the amendments that we are proposing in the current bill, there is a proposal that once you are elected on an affirmative seat, then you can only serve for 2 terms. From there, you should have matured to go run for a single constituency and leave out this seat for the newcomers. So that is also very encouraging, and we want to appeal to our colleagues to support that amendment. And we are also proposing in the Elections Act, we hope that it goes through, that nomination, of course, in accordance with Article 90, the nomination should consider women who had attempted. That will give the impetus and encourage more women to contest. Women who will have contested for single constituency seats and maybe were best losers. Those are the people who should be considered for the nominations.
All right, Moma, as also you give us your closing remarks. Talk to us about what you thought of the proposals by Chepkonga then, you know, progressive realization of the same. We had the Speaker of the National Assembly saying scrap and just have 100 affirmative seats. So how far we've come in this conversation as you give us your closing remarks?
I think we've come a long way, and I'm glad to report that when this debate began, Honorable Chepkonga supported the Duale bill.
Yes.
His proposal actually amounted to relegating the whole thing to the back burner. He sought to introduce the words progressive in Article 81, so the two-third gender rule would be postponed. Of course, that would mean indefinite postponement of this. I'm glad that now we are discussing implementing rather than amending the principle to postpone this. And as we speak, I'd like to encourage Kenyans to know that not to focus on the affirmative action on its own, because Article 100 provided for, has required Parliament to put in place the measures to ensure promotion of the inclusion of women, of youth, of persons with disabilities, of ethnic minorities and other minorities within Parliament. Now, it means that the 11th Parliament must be bold enough to actually chastise political parties to behave in the correct manner. I think one of the persons who sent in the message is correct to say that elections in Kenya require people to have fat accounts, which means if you can't garner 20 million, then you dare not try.
Yes.
If you can't hire youths to fight with other, to bring in violence, then you can't go into try for elections. We need to put in place rules, and by the way, the Constitution requires political parties to actually comply with the Constitution. We fund them with the public monies. So we need the 11th Parliament immediately after this to put in place the necessary measures that will see political parties include women, that will ensure that election offenses are penalized, that will ensure that a poor person who can be a good leader can also run for office and go into and actually be elected, and so on. We need to look into that, and we also need to look into the electoral laws, and we would urge IEBC as an umpire to be at the forefront in actually proposing the regulations that are going to ensure an equal playing ground for everybody.
All right. Honorable Okoth, as you also give your closing remarks, talk to us about the eventualities tomorrow. So this is a crucial vote. You're all hoping for a green light for it to move forward. What would that process look like? And in the event it does not, what does that look like as well?
So the bill has just completed second reading. Members have debated, they have given their opinions on it. It went through public participation. The technical working group was a consultative process that brought everybody together onto the table, including parliamentarians. So it's not true that some members of parliament, as you aired, were saying they were not consulted. Everybody was consulted, and the bill was a compromise. Now it has gone through second reading. Because it's a constitutional bill, you can't amend it. Once we vote on it tomorrow and it has passed second reading, it really becomes law. At third reading, we'll just be celebrating and giving valedictory remarks, which normal bills that are not constitutional, you actually at third reading go in and do written amendments and make a final version. But this, you're debating at second stage, and tomorrow is the time to vote. And I think the eventuality we want tomorrow is that all members show up. All political parties have between now and tomorrow to declare their stand, as ODM has said. We are for the bill, and all ODM members must do that. I'd like to hear that from URP. I'd like to hear that from TNA, WIPA, and Ford Kenya, so we know who stands with women, who stands with the implementation of the Constitution. If by any chance, bad luck, or sadly, regrettably, the bill does not pass tomorrow, it will be a huge loss. But we must have a plan B, and the plan B will be either we must collect signatures and set a similar bill through the Green Amendment or something to go out and collect signatures, because you have three ways to amend the Constitution. Through Parliament, which we are trying. If Parliament in its wisdom refuses to do something like this, the citizens are the ultimate holders of power in this country. Sovereignty belongs to them. They can give their signatures the same way we collected signatures for Okoa Kenya. Good signatures, and we get in there and bring in the bill to be amended. So I know women around the country will be watching. All citizens tonight, as you go to bed, as you wake up in the morning, call your MP and remind them, please vote for this to be on the right side of history to move Kenya forward.
All right. And finally, Lichuma, tonight.
For me, I think I want to end on a very positive note, that I see light at the end of the tunnel. I see that our men and women in the August House will speak tomorrow, and they will speak to the fact that the Constitution must be implemented. And as we do this, we want to also speak to the women of this country. Do you have your voter's card? Have you registered as a member of a political party? Do you know the ticket which will bring you to Parliament come 2017? Do not wait until it's too late, so that we are thinking about the affirmative action of nomination being a plan B. Plan A, we want both men and women to go out and be voted in. I think it's possible, it's doable, and I want to wish the members of Parliament well, and I know you'll do us proud. We have had this discussion for 3 years. You really, really will need to give Kenya a way forward. 2017 is not very far. Let's not talk about going to court, because that is an option. A Kenyan would still move to court as an option. I do not think we want to go that way. I want to believe that we know what is right. Political goodwill, I think, is at its highest. I'm happy that we'll be seeing the CORD leaders up in the gallery cheering their members. I hope that His Excellency the President will also be whipping the Jubilee members to come up in large numbers. I see success tomorrow. Thank you. And Honorable Ken, maybe we can do wine in the evening after we finish the game. Thank you.
I look forward to it.
You look, who's going to be buying?
I will.
You will.
Commissioner.
And that is the last word tonight. Indeed, the countdown is on ahead of tomorrow's crucial vote. We thank you, Winfred Lichuma, Chair of the National Gender and Equality Commission, for being with us tonight, as well as Ken Okoth, who's a Member of Parliament Kibra. Also with us tonight was Mary Emase, Member of Parliament Teso South constituency, and Catherine Muma, former Commissioner of now defunct CIC. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation, and we indeed look forward to that debate tomorrow and how that vote will go. You'll catch all the developments right here on KTN News. Thank you for watching. I'm Sophia Wanuna. Have a good night.